young.
Don't bother nobody!
It was just after dawn in Rochester, New York. The Lopez family was getting ready to leave for work when the sound of pounding fists shattered the silence. "Open the door. Homeland Security." Maria froze where she stood. Her husband, Wilson, had been quiet all morning, his eyes distant, his hands trembling. His father and younger brother were already in the van, ready to drive him to work. But when Wilson saw the flashing red and blue lights outside, his heart sank. He knew it was over. In that single moment, Maria's life split in two, before the knock, and after it. Wilson's father slammed the van into reverse, tires screeching on the cold pavement. Agents shouted from behind, ordering them to stop. Maria, still in her robe, ran barefoot onto the street screaming, "Wait! Please don't take them." The van sped down the block, but traffic ahead forced them to pull over near a gas station. Inside, the air was thick with fear. Wilson gripped the steering wheel, his father whispered a prayer in Spanish, and the younger brother tried to call Maria. "Don't open the doors," the father said. "We'll figure this out." But it was too late. The agents were already surrounding them, blue and red lights flickered across the windshield. Officers approached, shouting commands. "Step out of the vehicle. Do it now." Wilson locked the doors. The engine revved. His father called Maria again, this time begging her to come quickly. Minutes later, she arrived at the scene, breathless and crying. "Let me talk to my husband," she screamed. The officers warned her to stay back, but she refused. "You can't take him. He's not a criminal." The air crackled with tension as agents threatened to break the windows. Maria pounded on the glass with her fists, her voice trembling, "Please. We have children." The sound of shattering glass cut through the morning air. Agents reached in, unlocking the door from inside. Wilson's father tried to hold them back, shouting in Spanish, "We did nothing wrong." An officer pushed him aside. Maria lunged forward, screaming, "Don't touch him," but another agent blocked her. "Back off, ma'am," he barked. She struggled against their grip, yelling, "I'm his wife. You can't do this." Her voice cracked into sobs as she watched her husband pulled from the van and forced onto the ground. The man who once promised her a new life in America now lay in handcuffs beside their shattered dreams. As the agents took Wilson away, Maria collapsed beside the road. Her hands trembled as she dialed her neighbor. "They're taking my whole family," she cried. "Please, someone help me." Within minutes, neighbors rushed to the scene. They pleaded with officers, asking what was happening. "We're not criminals," Maria repeated again and again, her voice fading into the chaos. But no one listened. For the first time, she felt the crushing weight of being invisible, living in a country that didn't see her pain, only her papers. At the federal office, the three men sat in separate holding rooms. Wilson stared at the cold steel table in front of him. His brother was silent. Their father prayed quietly in a corner. Outside, Maria waited for hours, clutching her husband's jacket. When an agent finally emerged, he said flatly, "They're being transferred to ICE custody." Maria's heart stopped. "All of them?" she asked. The man nodded. She tried to follow the transport van as it left, but another officer blocked her car. "You can't go there," he warned. "It's a secure facility." She turned away, whispering, "You already took everything." Maria began calling every number she could find, lawyers, activists, anyone who might listen. "They're taking my family," she said to each new voice, "Please, I just need to know where they are." Her words spread quickly across social media. By nightfall, the story had reached local community groups. Volunteers started organizing. "We'll protest," one woman told her. "We'll make sure people hear your story." Maria looked up through tears. For the first time since that morning, she felt a flicker of hope. A week later, the heart of Rochester City Hall was unrecognizable. Hundreds of people had gathered, families, students, workers, and strangers, all united by one name, Maria Lopez. They carried signs that glowed under the cold spring sun. Families belong together. No human is illegal. Some cried. Others chanted. But everyone waited for one woman to speak. Maria stood at the very front, clutching a framed photo of Wilson, her husband, now in federal custody. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from rage and love burning together. Reporters swarmed her, cameras clicking like thunder. When she finally stepped to the microphone, silence fell over the plaza. Even the flags above seemed to pause. "They're not criminals," she began, her voice cracking yet steady. "They work hard. They pay taxes. They raise their children with hope. They love this country, even when it doesn't love them back." Each word echoed against the stone walls, rolling through the crowd like a wave. Mothers began to cry. Men lowered their heads. Then, in a sudden, cinematic moment, a federal vehicle turned the corner, black and unmarked. The chanting slowed. A whisper ran through the crowd. "Are they here again?" Maria's eyes lifted. For a second, everything froze, her reflection glinting in the lens of a reporter's camera. Would they take her too? Would she be next? She took a deep breath and faced the flashing lights. "If they want to take me," she said, voice like steel, "they'll have to face all of us." The crowd erupted, louder, stronger, unstoppable. That night, the footage went viral across the nation. Millions watched as one woman stood alone against an entire system. Some called her brave. Others called her reckless. But everyone remembered her words, words that refused to be deported. The protest sent shockwaves through the nation. By the next morning, news outlets from New York to Los Angeles were running one headline. Rochester woman defies ICE during family deportation. In City Hall, the mayor faced a storm of cameras. His voice was calm, but the anger underneath was unmistakable. "Rochester is a sanctuary city," he said firmly. "We do not assist in tearing families apart." The statement ignited chaos. 10 officers were immediately pulled off duty and sent for retraining. Federal officials called it interference. Political commentators called it rebellion. Online, the battle lines were drawn. Comment sections flooded like rivers after a storm. Some praised Maria, "She's a hero. A mother who fought back." Others spat venom, "They broke the law. Deport them all." Screens glowed across the country, everyone choosing sides. But in the middle of all the noise, Maria sat alone in her dimly lit living room. The echoes of the crowd had faded. Only the ticking of a wall clock and the cold light of her phone remained. Dozens of notifications blinked, likes, threats, interviews, offers. Her hand trembled as she scrolled, eyes wide, face pale. For the first time, she realized what she had truly started. This wasn't the end of her story, it was the beginning of a war she never asked for. She set her phone down, exhaled slowly, and whispered to herself. "If they think I'll stop, they don't know me yet." The next morning, Maria walked into a downtown immigration office, a cold building filled with faces that all carried the same silent fear. The air smelled of stale coffee and anxiety. She clutched a folder, papers, photos, documents, the last pieces of her family's life in America. Across the table sat an immigration lawyer, calm but tired, the kind of man who had delivered bad news too many times. "Maria," he began softly, sliding a file toward her, "Wilson was deported once before, in 2023. He re-entered illegally. That makes it a federal crime." The word struck her like a verdict. Her breath caught. "But," the lawyer continued, lowering his voice, "we can appeal for your father-in-law and brother-in-law. There's still a chance, small, but real." Maria nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. She didn't cry. Not yet. That night, she made her choice. She sold her car, the only thing of value she had left. Every dollar went into the appeal fund. When her apartment lease ended, she didn't renew it. A friend offered her a couch, and she accepted, grateful, silent, exhausted. Each night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the same memory. The sound of shattering glass. The flash of red and blue lights. And her husband's voice echoing through the chaos. "Don't cry." She pressed her hands to her face, whispering into the darkness. "I'm not crying, Wilson. I'm fighting." Fade out. Weeks passed. The protests faded from headlines, but Maria's battle didn't. Each dawn, she walked the same cracked sidewalks to the detention center on the edge of Rochester, a gray fortress wrapped in barbed wire and cold silence. The snow had begun to melt, leaving puddles that reflected the fences like broken mirrors. Inside, she waited in line behind other wives, mothers, and daughters, all holding small folders, all wearing the same expression of quiet desperation. When her turn came, the guard didn't even look up from his clipboard. "You're not on the list," he said. She tried again the next day. And the day after that. Always the same words. "You're not on the list." Eventually, Maria stopped asking to go inside. Instead, she began to write. Every night, under the dim light of her friend's kitchen, she wrote letters, one for Wilson, one for his father, and one for his brother. Her handwriting trembled, but her words were strong. "No matter what happens, I'll keep fighting," she wrote in Spanish. "We will see each other again, maybe not tomorrow, but soon." At the detention center's front desk, she'd leave 3 envelopes, neatly stacked and sealed with hope. Sometimes the clerk nodded. Sometimes they didn't even notice. It became her ritual, her prayer, her only way to reach the family she could no longer touch. As days turned into weeks, she started talking to them through the fence, whispering their names into the cold wind. She imagined Wilson could hear her, somewhere inside those walls, whispering back. And though no one replied, Maria felt it. A faint heartbeat of love. Still alive. Still waiting to be free. The letter came on a gray morning, folded neatly, stamped with the insignia of the Department of Homeland Security. Maria didn't open it right away. She didn't need to. Somewhere deep inside, she already knew what it said. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling as she unfolded the paper. Wilson Galvin Lopez has been convicted of illegal re-entry under federal law. He will be deported within the next several weeks. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. She read them again. And again. As if repetition might somehow change the ending. His father and brother's names appeared farther down, their cases marked as pending. Hope, thin and fragile, lingered like the last candle in a dark room. Maria set the letter beside her and looked around the small room she now called home. The walls were bare. The air was heavy. Once, this space had echoed with laughter, Wilson's jokes, the brothers' music, her father-in-law's humming as he fixed old radios. Now it was all gone, replaced by a silence that pressed against her chest. Outside the window, snow began to fall, soft and soundless. The flakes drifted down just as they had the morning her family was taken. Time had come full circle. She walked to the window, pressing her hand against the cold glass, whispering his name. Wilson. But the story didn't end there. News of Maria's fight spread far beyond Rochester. Across the city, church bells rang in solidarity, and community halls opened their doors to her. Local churches, immigrant rights groups, and activists began to rally together, strangers united by one woman's courage. They organized fundraisers, candlelight vigils, and marches that filled downtown streets. Handmade signs appeared everywhere. Families belong together. No human is illegal. Justice for Maria's family. Reporters returned. City officials were forced to answer questions they had long avoided. One activist shouted into a megaphone. If this can happen in a sanctuary city, it can happen anywhere. The crowd roared in agreement. Maria, once too afraid to speak, now stood on stages with her head held high. She spoke at schools, community meetings, and rallies, her voice steady, her story powerful. Every word carried the pain she had lived and the hope she refused to lose. I am not fighting for one man, she told them. I am fighting for every family who fears the knock on the door. As the movement grew, Maria's name became a symbol, not of tragedy, but of transformation. What began as one woman's nightmare had become a movement. And somewhere, across the border, Wilson would one day hear her voice again. Rising from the crowd, echoing through a nation that was finally beginning to listen. 2 months later, a letter arrived with a single line of hope, one final phone call approved. Maria's hands shook as she dialed the number, the sound of each ring pounding in her chest like a heartbeat. When the call connected, a burst of static filled the line, and then, his voice. Maria. Her breath caught. For a moment, it was as if the distance, the fences, the miles between them had vanished. Wilson, it's me. They spoke softly, afraid that even the silence might break what little time they had left. Promise me you'll be safe, she whispered, her voice trembling. I'll come back when it's legal, he replied gently. Tell the kids I love them. Static swallowed his words, and then, silence. Maria didn't move. She kept the phone pressed to her ear long after the call had ended, listening to nothing, wishing it could somehow become something again. Outside, the first light of dawn spilled through the window, golden, quiet, endless. It was the same sunrise that had once broken her world apart. But now, as she stood there, eyes swollen from tears she no longer tried to hide, Maria felt something shift inside her. The grief was still there, but beneath it, something stronger had taken root. She looked out at the light, the city waking slowly below her, and whispered. We'll survive this. And for the first time in months, she believed it. Months later, Maria's fight helped change local policy. Rochester strengthened its sanctuary protections, ensuring that local police could no longer assist in federal deportations without court orders. The story of the Lopez family became a symbol of loss, courage, and resistance. In interviews, Maria said only one line that echoed across the country.